Hey guys, tonight we're strapping on our spurs and pulling down our hats. But we're leaving the movie magic and the romantic ballads behind. We're riding straight into the brutal, unvarnished reality of the American Wild West. A place where legends were forged, yes, but mostly through sweat, grit, and an unimaginable amount of discomfort. And you, tonight, you're not just a fan of Westerns, you are a cowboy. A real working cowboy. On a dusty, endless trail drive across the vast, unforgiving plains of Texas, or maybe the sweeping expanses of Montana. Imagine the relentless sun baking your skin, the perpetual dust coating your throat, and the constant dull ache in every bone of your body. Forget the campfire songs and the clean shirts. If you were really here, you'd be praying for a bath, a soft bed, and maybe just one moment where something didn't sting or itch. You'd be looking for the nearest air-conditioned diner, which, spoiler alert, wouldn't exist for another 100 years. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, tell me, where are you tuning in from tonight? And what time is it for you? I always love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake before dawn. Not to the gentle chime of an alarm, but to the harsh jangle of a cowbell tied to a horse or the insistent, raspy shouts of the camp cook. The air is cold and crisp, biting at your exposed skin, but you know it won't last. Soon, the sun will rise, turning the vast expanse of the prairie into a searing oven. You roll out of your bedroll, a thin blanket offering little comfort against the hard ground, your body stiff and sore from yesterday's endless hours in the saddle. Your first task rolling up that bedroll, quickly, before the cook threatens to serve it for breakfast. Your bedroom is wherever the cattle stop for the night, an open-air dormitory under a blanket of stars, or, more often, a swirling cloud of dust. This isn't just a job, it's a nomadic existence, where your home is literally on your horse's back. The scent of stale coffee and sizzling salt pork, mixed with the pervasive smell of dust and horse sweat, fills the early morning air. Breakfast is a quick, functional affair: hardtack biscuits, maybe some beans, and that perpetually lukewarm, gritty coffee. There's no time for leisure, no conversation beyond terse commands and mumbled acknowledgments. You eat quickly, standing or squatting, your eyes already scanning the horizon, anticipating the day's grind. The dust, your constant companion, already coats your teeth, a gritty reminder of the unyielding environment, the unforgiving wardrobe. Your wardrobe isn't about fashion, it's about function, and it's surprisingly uncomfortable. Your denim trousers are stiff, often patched, and perpetually covered in dirt, dust, and various animal excretions. They chafe against your skin, especially after hours in the saddle. Your long-sleeved shirt, often made of thick cotton or flannel, is a shield against the sun in summer and a meager layer against the cold in winter. But it never feels truly clean. Your vest, worn over your shirt, might offer a few extra pockets for small necessities, but it adds another layer of bulk and heat. And your bandana, pulled up to cover your nose and mouth, is a crucial, if ultimately futile defense against the suffocating dust. But it never quite stops the grit from getting in. Imagine wearing the same sweaty, dusty clothes for weeks on end, with no chance for a proper wash. Your laundry day consists of shaking them out and hoping for the best. Your boots, heavy and often custom-made, are essential for riding, designed to grip the stirrups and protect your feet. But they are not made for walking. Every step on solid ground is a clumsy, uncomfortable shuffle. And then there's your hat, the iconic cowboy hat. It's not just a fashion statement, it's your only protection against the relentless sun, the biting wind, and the sudden downpours. It gets soaked, sun-faded, sweat-stained, and perpetually out of shape. You wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's a constant battle to keep it on your head in a strong gust. It's a common historical fact that cowboy attire was purely utilitarian, designed for survival and work on the range. not for looking good in sepia-tone photographs. The relentless sun and the endless dust. As the sun climbs higher, the temperature quickly soars. The vast, open prairie offers no shade, no respite from the scorching rays that beat down on your hat. Your shoulders, your face, your skin burns, then tans to a leathery, cracked texture, perpetually covered in a fine layer of dust that seems to cling to every pore. The dust is perhaps the most ubiquitous and irritating element of your existence. It's kicked up by the thousands of hooves in front of you, a perpetual swirling cloud that invades your nostrils, your throat, your eyes. You breathe it, you taste it, you feel it grit against your teeth. It coats your food, your water, your very soul. You quickly learn that trying to avoid it is futile. You simply live with it, a constant, abrasive companion. The academic debate often explores the environmental factors that shaped cowboy life. Beyond just the romanticized imagery, historians emphasize the sheer scale of the landscape, the unpredictable weather patterns, and the constant battle against the elements as defining features of their existence. For you, the cowboy, it means adapting to extreme heat, biting cold, and the ceaseless, irritating presence of dust that permeates everything, slowly grinding down your resolve. You're living proof that the wide open spaces sometimes just means nowhere to hide from the sun. Your horse, your most vital tool and often your only true companion, is as weary as you are. You spend most of your waking hours in the saddle, your legs aching, your backside perpetually sore. You learn to ride with an almost unconscious fluidity, swaying with the horse's gait, snatching moments of rest even while moving. You develop an intimate bond with your mount, trusting it with your life through treacherous terrain and sudden dangers. You learn its moods, its subtle signals, understanding that its well-being is directly tied to your own survival, monotony, and the herd. The work itself is relentlessly monotonous for long stretches. Day after day, week after week, you push the herd forward, a vast, lowing river of cattle across endless miles of prairie. Your job is to keep them moving, to keep them together, to prevent strays, and to watch for any sign of trouble. This means hours of slow, patient riding, constantly vigilant, your eyes scanning the horizon for anything out of place: a lone wolf, a distant rider, or the subtle shift in the cattle's behavior that might signal an impending stampede. The boredom can be as grueling as the physical labor, a mental test of endurance. Mealtimes are brief and functional. The cook, often a cantankerous character, rules his chuckwagon with an iron fist, serving up the same limited fare day after day beans, biscuits, salt pork, and strong black coffee. Fresh vegetables are a rarity. Fresh meat usually only available after a successful hunt, or if a steer breaks a leg. The food is designed for calories and preservation, not for taste or variety. You eat what you're given, quickly, grateful for any sustenance that fuels your aching body. Forget gourmet dining. This is pure, unadulterated fuel. As the sun begins its slow descent, painting the vast western sky in fiery hues, you look out at the endless expanse. The cattle are settling for the night, a dark, low-lying mass against the fading light. Your body aches, your eyes sting from the dust, and your stomach grumbles with perpetual hunger. You've survived another day on the range, another day of dust, dirt, and desolation. You gather your bedroll, find a spot near the fire, and collapse, hoping for a few hours of unbroken sleep before the relentless grind begins anew. The vast expanse of the open range stretches before you, an endless canvas of undulating prairie, punctuated only by distant buttes or the shimmering heat haze on the horizon. You've endured the dust and discomfort of dawn, the meager breakfast a distant memory. Now, as the sun climbs higher, intensifying its relentless glare, you settle into the heart of a cowboy's existence, the grueling drive. This isn't the romantic gallop of the silver screen. It's an endless, exhausting ballet of man, horse, and beast, pushing thousands of cattle across a continent. You're a part of the point, riding at the very front of the herd, Setting the pace, your eyes constantly scanning for hazards. Or perhaps you're on the flanks, riding alongside the massive, slow-moving river of beef, keeping the herd together, preventing strays from veering off. The rhythmic clop-clop of your horse's hooves, the low, persistent lowing of the cattle, and the occasional shout of a fellow cowboy become the monotonous soundtrack to your day. Hours blend into an indistinguishable continuum of dust, heat, and vigilant riding. Your legs ache, your backside is perpetually sore from the saddle, and your eyes burn from the ceaseless glare and the omnipresent grit. It's like being stuck in the slowest, dustiest parade imaginable, but you're both the participant and the security detail. And if you mess up, thousands of pounds of angry beef are going to be your problem. The academic debate often centers on the economic motivations behind these massive cattle drives. Historians emphasize that while the individual cowboy's life was harsh, the drives themselves were a crucial economic engine, moving livestock from vast grazing lands in Texas to railheads in Kansas, where they could be shipped to burgeoning cities back east. This grand logistical operation, fueled by cowboy labor, was a fundamental part of America's post-Civil War expansion. For you, the cowboy, it's not about grand economics. It's about the next mile, the next watering hole, and simply getting the herd and yourself to the end of the line. The silent language of cattle. Understanding cattle behavior is paramount, a silent language you learn through hard-won experience. You watch their heads, their tails, their subtle shifts in gait. A sudden bunching, a nervous twitch, a frantic bellow. These are signs of agitation, hinting at a potential stampede. You learn to anticipate their movements, to gently nudge them back into line, to keep them calm and moving forward. It's a delicate balance of control and patience, like trying to herd 1,000 stubborn, unpredictable teenagers across a vast prairie. And if they decide to run, well, good luck. An interesting, less commonly known aspect of the grueling drive involved the strategic use of singing to the cattle at night. During night watches, cowboys would often sing soft, monotonous songs or hum quiet tunes. This wasn't just to pass the time, it was believed to soothe the cattle, keeping them calm and preventing them from spooking and stampeding. The constant, familiar sound provided a sense of security for the nervous herd in the vast, dark wilderness. Imagine having lullaby duty for thousands of cows, knowing your voice is the only thing standing between a peaceful night and utter chaos. The dust, as you recall from the previous chapter, is your constant companion, an ever-present veil that coats everything. But on the trail, it's amplified. Thousands of hooves churn the dry earth into a fine, suffocating powder that hangs perpetually in the air. It gets into your clothes, your hair, your mouth, your nose, your eyes. You breathe it in, a gritty sandpaper sensation in your lungs, contributing to chronic coughs and respiratory issues. You wear your bandana pulled up over your face, a meager defense, but the dust finds its way in regardless, a relentless, irritating torment. You'll never truly feel clean until the drive is over. And even then, the memory of the dust will linger in your pores. Sun, sweat, and scarce water. The sun, a blazing orb in the immense sky, beats down with unforgiving intensity. There's no shade for miles, no respite from its relentless glare. Your skin, exposed to the elements day after day, becomes leathery and cracked. Perpetually sunburned or wind-chapped, sweat stings your eyes, mingling with the ever-present dust to form streaks of grime on your face. And water. Precious, life-giving water is always scarce. You carry a canteen, carefully rationing its contents, enduring a persistent thirst that no amount of lukewarm, muddy water truly quenches. Finding a watering hole for thousands of cattle, and for yourself, is a constant, critical concern. A logistical puzzle that can make or break the drive. Your hands, calloused and rough from rope work and handling a horse, are a map of your labors. You learn to tie knots with lightning speed, to handle a lasso with practiced ease, and to control your horse with subtle shifts of your weight and reins. These skills are second nature, honed through countless hours of repetitive, exhausting effort. Every movement is purposeful, efficient, a testament to the brutal efficacy of your training on the open range. The monotony of the landscape itself can also be a challenge. Miles and miles of flat prairie, punctuated by the occasional creek bed or cluster of cottonwoods. The sheer sameness can be mentally draining, leading to a kind of waking stupor, broken only by sudden, heart-stopping emergencies. You learn to find beauty in the subtle shifts of the grass, the vastness of the sky, or the distant silhouette of a lone coyote. These small observations become anchors in the endless monotony, ways to keep your mind engaged when your body is simply functioning on autopilot. The ever-present threat of stampede. The most terrifying threat on the drive is the stampede. A sudden clap of thunder, a nervous cough from a horse, a lone wolf's howl, or even just the cattle's collective apprehension. Any small spark can ignite a terrifying, uncontrollable surge of thousands of pounds of panicked beef. You've been in them. The earth trembling underfoot, the roar of hooves like an approaching train, the sheer terror of being caught in the path of a blind, destructive force. Your life depends on your horse's speed, your riding skill, and your ability to turn the lead steers, to mill the herd into a tight circle, gradually slowing their panicked rush. It's the ultimate test of a cowboy's courage and skill, a moment where romantic notions of the West vanish, replaced by pure, visceral fear. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, you bring the herd to a halt for the night. The cattle slowly settle, their lowing gradually fading into a contented hum. You dismount, your legs stiff and trembling, your body aching in places you didn't know existed. The last light illuminates your dusty, sweat-stained clothes, your weather-beaten face. You've endured another grueling day on the drive, another 100 miles closer to the railhead. As the campfire crackles, offering a meager comfort against the vast, dark prairie, you collapse onto your bedroll, hoping for a few hours of dreamless sleep before the sun rises and the endless, grueling drive begins anew. The vast expanse of the prairie, stretching endlessly under the blazing sun, offers little in the way of comfort or culinary delight. You've settled into the relentless rhythm of the cattle drive, your body aching, your senses dulled by dust and exhaustion. But as a cowboy, your struggle isn't just against the elements or the stubborn herd, it's also a constant battle against the monotonous, often unappetizing, reality of grub and guts. The food that barely fuels your immense physical labor. You awaken, usually before the first hint of dawn, to the clatter of pots and pans from the chuckwagon. The camp cook, a figure as vital and often as cantankerous as the trail boss, is already at work, stirring a pot over an open fire. The smell of burning wood mixes with the faint, greasy scent of frying meat. Breakfast is the most substantial meal, meant to fuel hours of riding before the midday heat becomes unbearable. You squat around the fire, a tin plate in your hand, waiting for your portion. The staple of your diet is beans. Always beans. They are cheap, easy to transport, and relatively simple to cook over an open fire. You eat them boiled, fried, sometimes mixed with a little salt pork. But always, always beans. They provide some protein and fiber, but the sheer monotony can be soul-crushing. You dream of fresh vegetables, of crisp apples, of anything that isn't another spoonful of lukewarm, mushy beans. It's like living on a perpetual diet of lukewarm, slightly burnt refried beans. Every single day, your stomach might be full, but your taste buds are in a state of perpetual mourning. The culinary limits of the open range. Another constant is hardtack biscuits or plain sourdough bread. These are dense, dry, and often tough. But they're durable and can withstand weeks on the trail without spoiling. You learn to dip them in your coffee to soften them, or chew them slowly, trying to extract any semblance of flavor. Fresh bread, light and airy, is a luxury reserved for towns, a tantalizing memory from a distant past. The academic debate often highlights the ingenuity and resourcefulness of trail cooks in an environment with extreme logistical constraints. Historians emphasize that while the food was basic, it was remarkably efficient for its purpose, providing high-calorie, non-perishable sustenance for hundreds of miles of strenuous travel. For you, the cowboy, it's not ingenuity, it's just the taste of survival. Meat, when you get it, is usually salt pork or dried beef jerky. Fresh beef from the herd is a rarity, usually only after a steer breaks a leg and has to be butchered, or if the cowboys manage to hunt a wild game animal. Salt pork, heavily cured to prevent spoilage, is often excessively salty and tough, requiring long cooking times to make it palatable. Jerky is convenient for eating in the saddle, but it's hard on the teeth and offers little variety. You crave the taste of fresh, juicy steak, a craving that intensifies with every passing mile of the drive. It's a bit like living on dehydrated protein bars, but they're made with actual cow. Coffee is the lifeblood of the cowboy, brewed strong and black in a large pot over the campfire. It's often gritty, lukewarm, and tastes suspiciously like old campfire smoke. But it's hot and provides a much-needed jolt of caffeine to start the long, dusty days. You drink it from a tin cup, often without sugar or milk, appreciating its warmth in the chilly mornings and its bitter kick throughout the day. It's your only consistent luxury, a small comfort in a world of discomfort. An interesting, less commonly known detail about cowboy grub was the use of dried fruit, particularly apples or peaches, when available. While fresh fruit was practically non-existent, dried fruit provided a crucial source of vitamins, helping to prevent ailments like scurvy during long stretches without fresh produce. These were often a special treat, carefully rationed, a welcome sweetness in a diet dominated by savory, salty flavors. Imagine a small piece of dried apple being the highlight of your week's culinary experience. Cooking and cleaning. The cook, despite his gruff demeanor, is a master of improvisation, conjuring meals from limited ingredients using basic equipment, a cast iron Dutch oven, a large coffee pot, and a few tin plates and cups. The chuckwagon is his domain, a rolling kitchen that carries all the food, cooking supplies, and personal items for the crew. He's often the first one up and the last one to bed, his tireless work ensuring the cowboys are fed and ready for another day. You respect him, and you certainly don't argue with him. He controls the most important aspect of your survival. You'd be looking for a Michelin-starred chef, but you get a guy whose main ingredient is whatever hasn't gone bad yet. Cleaning up after meals is quick and perfunctory. Tin plates and cups are often simply wiped clean with a cloth, or given a quick rinse with precious water, then left to dry. There's no hot water, no soap, and certainly no dishwashers. The lack of proper hygiene contributes to the constant threat of illness and the general grubbiness of cowboy life. You learn to ignore the lingering grime, focusing only on the satisfaction of a temporarily filled stomach. The perpetual lack of fresh food and vegetables takes its toll on your body. You suffer from vitamin deficiencies, often experiencing fatigue, muscle cramps, and sometimes even the early signs of scurvy, with bleeding gums and general weakness. Your body is constantly undernourished, just barely sustained by the monotonous diet, leaving you vulnerable to illness and injury. The immense physical labor extracts a heavy toll, and your food provides only the bare minimum for your body to function. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the vast prairie, you finish your evening meal, another plate of beans and tough beef. The crackle of the campfire is the only sound, providing a meager warmth against the growing chill of the night. Your stomach is full, but your body aches, and the taste of salt and dust lingers in your mouth. You prepare for your night watch, knowing that another endless day of riding and eating the same unappetizing food awaits. The romantic image of the cowboy fades with the light, replaced by the stark, unvarnished reality of survival on the open range. The vast, untamed expanse of the American West, stretching under an indifferent sky, is a land where the established order of the East often feels like a distant fantasy. As a cowboy, riding herd across these boundless plains, You quickly learn that the lines between right and wrong are blurred, and true justice is often a matter of who has the faster draw or the stronger hand. Tonight, we navigate the perilous landscape of lawless lands, flimsy justice, a world where violence was common and protection was often an illusion. You ride point on the cattle drive, your eyes scanning the horizon, not just for stray calves or changes in the terrain, but for the telltale dust cloud of approaching riders. In this untamed territory, there are no sheriff's patrols over the next ridge, no federal marshals conveniently waiting at the next watering hole. Protection for your herd and for your life falls squarely on the shoulders of your small, rugged crew. Every man carries a pistol or a rifle, not just for hunting game, but for defending against rustlers, outlaws, or sometimes even desperate drifters. The very air hums with a quiet tension, a constant awareness that you are your own first and often only line of defense. It's like living in a perpetual real-life video game, where respawn isn't an option, and the bad guys don't wear neon signs. The academic debate often explores the true extent of lawlessness in the Old West. While popular culture often exaggerates the constant gunfights and chaos, historians agree that many frontier areas indeed lacked formal legal structures. Justice was often dispensed informally, through vigilante groups or simply by the dominant figures in a community. The idea of a strong, centralized legal authority was often far from the reality of daily life. For you, the cowboy, this means that every encounter with a stranger, every dispute carries an inherent risk, and relying on formal law is rarely an option. Rustlers and bandits. The constant threat rustlers are your most persistent, insidious threat. These aren't just petty thieves, they are organized gangs, skilled at quietly cutting off strays from the herd under the cover of darkness, or stampeding cattle to cause chaos and confusion. Losing a significant number of steers isn't just a setback. It's a direct blow to the financial success of the drive and a threat to your very livelihood. You and your fellow cowboys take turns on night watch, riding the perimeter of the bedded down herd, your senses heightened, listening for any unusual sound, any subtle movement in the shadows that might betray a lurking thief. A rustler caught in the act justice is swift and brutal, often meted out with a rope in a tree. Far from any judge or jury, beyond rustlers, bandits and highwaymen pose a threat, particularly near established trails or settlements. These desperados might target the chuckwagon, hoping for supplies, or demand a toll for passage through certain territories. Your outfit, though armed, is a small force against an unknown number of well-organized criminals. Avoiding confrontation, if possible, is often the wisest course. But if a fight breaks out, it's sudden, chaotic, and deadly. You learn to aim true, to fight dirty, and to rely on your wits as much as your weapon. An interesting, less commonly known aspect of frontier justice was the role of regulators, or vigilance committees. These were often informal groups of citizens, ranchers, and cowboys who banded together to enforce order where formal law was absent or ineffective. While sometimes effective at curbing crime, they often operated outside legal boundaries, leading to abuses of power, personal vendettas, and cycles of violence. Imagine your town's neighborhood watch, also having the power to hold trials and carry out executions. It's a Wild West twist on community policing, disputes and duels. Personal justice. Personal disputes are also common, fueled by boredom, alcohol, and the constant friction of close quarters. A poker game gone wrong, an insult misinterpreted, or a perceived slight can quickly escalate. Without a formal legal system to mediate, these disagreements often lead to fistfights, or worse, gunfights. You learn to keep your temper in check, to choose your words carefully, and to walk away from unnecessary confrontations. Because in this world, a quick draw isn't just a trick, it's a grim necessity, and a moment of pride can cost you your life. You might witness a dispute turn deadly over something as trivial as a spilled drink or a crooked card. When you do encounter official lawmen, like a town marshal or a county sheriff, their authority is often limited to their immediate jurisdiction, and their presence is rare on the open range. They might be brave individuals, but they are often outnumbered and outgunned by the criminals they pursue. Justice, even when sought, can be slow, arbitrary, and easily swayed by local influence or wealth. You learn that relying on the law to save you is often a fool's errand. Your own vigilance and the loyalty of your crew are your best defense. The native tribes, whose lands you are often crossing, also pose a complex, often misunderstood threat. While some tribes might be peaceful, others, defending their ancestral lands from encroaching settlers and cattle drives, could pose a dangerous threat, leading to skirmishes or ambushes. You are constantly aware of the possibility of conflict, knowing that negotiations or outright battles could break out at any moment. Your understanding of Native American cultures is often limited, biased by fear and rumor, making these encounters even more fraught with tension. Life on the edge. Life on the range is a constant state of preparedness for violence. Your pistol is always loaded, your rifle close at hand. You learn to draw quickly, to shoot accurately, and to always be aware of your surroundings. The open landscape, while beautiful, offers little cover, making every encounter potentially deadly. This constant state of alert wears on your nerves, contributing to the harshness of your existence. You're always on edge, always ready for trouble, because trouble is often just over the next rise. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the vast, empty prairie, you settle down for your night watch. Your hand instinctively rests on the butt of your pistol, your eyes scanning the darkness. The cattle are bedding down, they're lowing a comforting sound. But in this land of lawless frontiers and flimsy justice, you know that peace is always fragile, and true safety is an illusion. You've survived another day, not because of distant laws or protectors, but because of your own grit, your quick wits, and the loyalty of the few men who ride beside you. And as the stars begin to emerge in the inky blackness, you say a silent prayer for a peaceful night, knowing that tomorrow, the dangers of the Wild West will once again demand your vigilance. The endless, dusty miles of the cattle drive might seem to strip away all but the raw necessities of life. Yet even in this harsh existence, there's an unspoken uniform, a set of practical garments that define your identity as a cowboy. Tonight, we unbutton the layers of myth to reveal a cowboy's rough wardrobe, exploring the practical, yet often uncomfortable. Attire that offered little luxury or true comfort, but was essential for survival on the American frontier. You pull on your well-worn denim trousers, stiff from countless days in the saddle and perpetually caked in a fine layer of dust and dried mud. These aren't the clean, tailored jeans you see in modern advertisements. They're heavy, often patched with rough fabric, and designed for durability, not style. They chafe against your skin, especially around the knees and thighs, rubbing raw after hours of gripping a horse's flanks. The fabric, while tough, offers little breathability in the scorching summer heat, turning your legs into perpetually sweaty, irritated messes. And in the cold, they are thin enough to let the biting wind cut right through. Imagine wearing the same pair of jeans for weeks, maybe even months, without a proper wash. The smell alone would probably clear a saloon faster than a gunfight. The fabric of survival. Your long-sleeve shirt, often made of thick cotton, flannel, or even wool depending on the season, is your primary shield against the elements. In summer, it protects your arms from the relentless sun, preventing severe sunburn that could quickly incapacitate you. In winter, it provides a meager layer of warmth against the biting winds and frigid temperatures. The fabric is rough against your skin, and like your trousers, it becomes a magnet for dust, sweat, and grime. Buttons are often missing, cuffs frayed, and the collar stained from years of wear. You learn to live with the constant itch, the persistent feeling of uncleanliness, knowing that a fresh, clean shirt is a luxury you won't experience until the drive is over. The academic debate often explores the evolution of cowboy clothing, noting how pragmatic adaptations to the environment shaped their iconic look. Historians emphasize that every piece of clothing served a specific function, gradually evolving from earlier frontier attire to the distinct cowboy style. While it looks iconic in photographs, the reality was far less glamorous, prioritizing survival over comfort or aesthetics. For you, the cowboy, your clothes are simply an extension of your tools, as vital as your lasso or your saddle, and just as worn. Your vest, worn over your shirt, might seem like an odd choice for heavy labor, but it serves multiple purposes. It provides an extra layer of warmth in chilly mornings or evenings, and offers additional pockets for small essentials like a tobacco pouch, matches, or a few precious coins. It might be made of canvas or wool, tough and resilient, but adds another layer of heat and bulk to your already laden body. Sometimes a vest could even offer a small amount of protection from minor scrapes or thorns, a subtle buffer against the rough and tumble of range life, the ever-present dust mask. The bandana is perhaps one of the most versatile and indispensable items in your wardrobe, tied loosely around your neck. It's quickly pulled up to cover your nose and mouth when the dust becomes unbearable during a stampede or a long, windy ride. It acts as a crude filter, offering a momentary reprieve from inhaling the choking grit, but it's also used to wipe sweat from your brow, to protect your neck from the sun, to tie a makeshift bandage, or even to signal to other riders. It's a simple square of cloth, but its utility is immense and you wouldn't be caught dead without it. Imagine trying to explain to someone today that this simple piece of fabric is your air filter, your napkin, and your first aid kit all rolled into one. Your boots, heavy and often custom made with high heels, are designed specifically for riding. The high heel helps keep your feet securely in the stirrups, preventing them from slipping through and potentially dragging you if you fall. The sturdy leather protects your feet from scrapes and snake bites. But these boots are not designed for walking. Every step on solid ground is a clumsy shuffle, the weight of the leather and the awkward heel making you feel ungainly and slow. They are perpetually dusty, caked with mud, and often damp from creek crossings or morning dew. The only time they truly feel comfortable is when your feet are in the stirrups, where they belong. An interesting, yet often overlooked detail is the material of cowboy hats. While felt is common, many early cowboy hats were made of beaver fur felt. This material was excellent for shedding rain, durable, and surprisingly warm in cold weather. However, it was also quite expensive, meaning many working cowboys would make do with less durable, cheaper alternatives. Regardless of material, your hat is your constant companion, your primary defense against the elements. It's a bit like driving a car without a roof or air conditioning, and your only protection is a really good umbrella that you wear on your head all the time. Sun, sweat, and a single hat. Your hat is your most iconic and protective piece of gear. It shields your face and neck from the relentless sun, preventing severe sunburn and heat stroke. In a sudden downpour, it funnels rain away from your face. It keeps dust and debris out of your eyes and provides a meager warmth in chilly winds. Your hat gets battered, faded, sweat-stained, and perpetually reshaped by the elements. You treat it with reverence, but also with pragmatism. It's not a fashion accessory, it's a piece of essential survival equipment, always within arm's reach. You learn to live with the constant discomfort, the friction of your clothes against your skin, the grit of dust in every fold of fabric, the perpetual dampness from sweat or dew. There's no opportunity for a proper bath or a change of clothes for weeks on end. You become accustomed to the subtle scent of yourself, a mix of horse, dust, sweat, and campfire smoke. It's a part of the identity, a badge of the trail, but hardly a pleasant experience. As the day draws to a close and the cattle settle for the night, you dismount your horse, your body aching, your clothes stiff with grime. You might loosen your belt, take off your hat to run a hand through your dusty hair, but you rarely change. Your wardrobe is your work, and your work is your life on the range. You'll collapse into your bedroll, wearing the same clothes you rode in, the rough fabric of familiar, if uncomfortable. Embrace dreaming of a day when clean linen and fresh water are not just distant fantasies, but a comfortable reality. The vast, beautiful, yet unforgiving expanse of the American Wild West offered a singular kind of freedom, but it came at a steep price: the constant, gnawing threat of illness, debilitating injury, and a profound, bone-deep isolation. As a cowboy, riding the endless range, you quickly learn that the closest doctor might be weeks away, and the only comfort for your ailments is often the cold, indifferent embrace of the prairie itself. Tonight, we immerse ourselves in the grim reality of sickness and solitude, experiencing the pervasive threat of disease, the agony of injury, and the sheer, overwhelming loneliness of life on the open range. You wake one morning with a searing headache, your throat raw, and a deep ache in your bones. It's not just the usual soreness from a long day's ride. This feels different, more insidious. You've got the trail fever, a common affliction that could be anything from a bad cold to a severe influenza, or even something more sinister like typhoid, spread by unsanitary conditions and contaminated water. There are no pharmacies out here, no doctors, no soothing remedies beyond a sip of strong, black coffee and the grim advice to walk it off. You force yourself into the saddle, every jolt of the horse sending fresh waves of nausea through your body, knowing that falling behind means risking being left behind. Imagine trying to power through a serious flu with no medicine, no soft bed, and still having to perform strenuous physical labor. You'd probably just wish for a quick, merciful end. The lack of medical care. The academic debate often highlights the primitive nature of frontier medicine. Historians emphasize that while a few trained doctors existed in larger towns, the vast majority of cowboys relied on self-treatment, folk remedies, or the limited knowledge of the camp cook. This stark reality contributed significantly to the high mortality rates on the frontier, as even minor injuries or illnesses could quickly escalate into fatal conditions. For you, the cowboy, it means that every cut, every cough, every fever is a roll of the dice, with your life on the line and no one but yourself to truly rely on. An interesting, less commonly known fact about cowboy medical care involved the use of tobacco. Beyond its recreational use, chewing tobacco was sometimes used as a makeshift antiseptic or poultice for minor wounds. The nicotine and other compounds in the tobacco were believed to help clean and seal small cuts. A desperate, crude form of frontier first aid. It's certainly not something your modern doctor would recommend, but in the absence of sterile gauze and actual antibiotics, you worked with what you had. Injuries are an ever-present threat. A fall from your horse, a kick from a nervous steer, a misstep in rough terrain. Any of these could result in a broken bone, a deep cut, or a debilitating sprain. Without proper medical attention, a broken leg could mean weeks of agonizing pain, a permanent limp, or even gangrene. A simple cut, if not properly cleaned, could quickly fester, leading to rampant infection and fever that would swiftly claim your life. You learn to be incredibly careful, but accidents are an inevitable part of cowboy life. You've seen men suffer, seen them endure pain that would send a city slicker screaming, and seen them quietly succumb to injuries that modern medicine could easily fix. Profound isolation. But perhaps even more pervasive than the physical ailments is the profound sense of solitude and isolation. Day after day, you ride across endless, empty plains, your only companions a handful of gruff men and thousands of cattle. Conversations are sparse, often limited to instructions or observations about the herd. There are no loved ones, no familiar faces, no comfort of community. The vastness of the landscape mirrors the vastness of your loneliness, a silent, gnawing ache that permeates your very being. You might go weeks without seeing another human outside your small crew, or a settlement larger than a dusty crossroads. The nights are especially long and solitary. On night watch, alone with the cattle under a canopy of countless stars. The silence can be deafening, broken only by the lowing of the herd or the distant howl of a coyote. Your thoughts turn inwards, to memories of home, of family, of a life that feels impossibly far away. Homesickness is a constant companion, a quiet despair that can be as debilitating as any physical ailment. You might sing quiet songs to the cattle or to yourself, just to break the overwhelming silence and to remind yourself that you still exist. The lack of bathing and proper hygiene contributes to a constant state of discomfort and illness. Weeks, sometimes months, pass without a proper bath. You might occasionally rinse off in a frigid creek, but the dust and grime quickly return. Your clothes are perpetually stiff with sweat and dirt, chafing your skin and contributing to skin infections and rashes. The general grubbiness affects not just your physical health, but your mental state, adding to the pervasive sense of desolation. The psychological toll. The psychological toll of this existence is immense. The constant danger, the physical exhaustion, the monotony, and the profound isolation can lead to deep loneliness, anxiety, and even depression. You learn to suppress your emotions, to become stoic and self-reliant, because showing weakness could be dangerous in a world that offers no mercy. But this suppression comes at a cost, leading to a quiet, internal suffering that few outsiders ever truly understand. As the sun sets, casting long, stark shadows across the silent prairie, you settle into your night watch. The stars begin to emerge, vast and indifferent, stretching across the inky blackness above. You listen to the sounds of the night, the lowing of the cattle, the distant howl of a wolf, and the quiet hum of your own thoughts. Your body aches, a dull throb in your bones, and a persistent cough rattles your chest. You are alone, truly alone, under the vast, uncaring sky, sustained only by a grim determination to endure. And as the hours slowly tick by, you reflect on the brutal reality of your life, defined by sickness, injury, and a profound, bone-deep solitude that tests the very limits of your resilience. The open range, while vast and seemingly empty, is far from benign. Beyond the constant dust, the blazing sun, and the threat of human adversaries lies a more unpredictable, primal danger, the untamed forces of nature itself. As a cowboy, riding herd across the sprawling plains, you quickly learn that the land, in its rawest form, is capable of unleashing sudden, catastrophic fury. Tonight, we brace ourselves for the perils of the prairie, witnessing the unexpected dangers lurking in nature. From the terrifying chaos of stampedes to the treacherous whims of the weather, you're riding flank. The endless lowing of the cattle a monotonous drone in the background. When suddenly, the air crackles. A distant rumble, almost imperceptible at first, vibrates through the ground beneath your horse's hooves. Your horse shifts nervously, its ears twitching, a dark line barely visible on the horizon. Rapidly approaches, growing wider, taller, and darker by the second. This isn't just a cloud, it's a thunderstorm, a monstrous, fast-moving wall of wind, rain, and lightning, bearing down on your exposed position. There's no shelter, no towering trees to hide under, just the vast, flat expanse of the prairie. You spur your horse, shouting to your fellow cowboys, urging the herd to move, but often, it's too late. The storm hits with violent force, a sudden deluge of freezing rain, blinding lightning strikes, and winds that threaten to tear your hat from your head and your horse from under you. It's a common historical fact that sudden, violent thunderstorms were a constant and terrifying threat on the open plains, capable of turning a routine cattle drive into a fight for survival. Nature's fury, thunderstorms and floods. The danger isn't just the direct force of the storm, it's the potential for a stampede. The cracking thunder, the blinding flashes of lightning, the lashing rain, these can easily spook thousands of nervous cattle, turning them into a single, unstoppable wave of panicked beef. You've been in them before, the earth trembling underfoot, the roar of hooves like an approaching train, the sickening terror of being caught in the path of pure, unthinking destruction. Your life and the success of the drive depends on your ability to turn the lead steers to mill the herd into a tight circle, gradually slowing their frantic rush. This is where a cowboy earns his meager pay, risking life and limb against the raw, unbridled power of a panicked herd. It's like trying to stop a freight train with nothing but your horse and your courage. But the freight train is alive and very, very angry. Then there's the deceptive danger of flash floods. A distant thunderstorm, unseen and unheard, might dump a massive amount of rain far upstream. Suddenly, a dry creek bed you just crossed moments ago can become a raging, muddy torrent, appearing seemingly out of nowhere, sweeping away horses, cattle, and unwary cowboys alike. You learn to read the landscape, to recognize the subtle signs of low-lying areas that could become death traps in a sudden downpour. Crossing rivers and creeks, even seemingly calm ones, becomes a tense, high-stakes operation, fraught with the danger of hidden currents and slippery banks. The silent, creeping dangers. The academic debate often explores the environmental knowledge and survival skills of cowboys, noting how their intimate understanding of the prairie ecosystem was crucial for navigating its dangers. Historians emphasize that their skills went far beyond just horsemanship and roping. They were also keen observers of weather patterns, animal behavior, and terrain, constantly adapting to the unpredictable forces around them. For you, the cowboy, this isn't just academic, it's the difference between life and death. Beyond the dramatic threats, quieter, more insidious dangers lurk. Rattlesnakes, coiled silently in the grass or under a rock, pose a constant threat. Their venomous bite capable of causing agonizing pain, severe illness, or even death. Far from any medical help. You learn to listen for their distinctive rattle, to watch where you step, and to always wear thick, protective boots. A bite can mean days of fever, delirium, and a slow, agonizing recovery. If you're lucky enough to survive, an interesting, less commonly known peril of the prairie was the danger of prairie dog towns. While seemingly harmless, the vast networks of prairie dog burrows created treacherous ground for horses. A horse stepping into a hidden hole at a gallop could easily break a leg, throwing its rider and causing serious injury or death. You learn to ride around these vast underground cities, constantly scanning the ground ahead, knowing that a single misstep could lead to disaster for both you and your horse. It's like navigating a minefield, but the mines are made by cute little rodents. Wild animals, too, pose a threat beyond just rustlers. Wolves and coyotes might prey on strays or weakened cattle, forcing you to ride out in the dead of night to protect the herd. Even bears could be found in certain regions, particularly near mountain ranges or forested areas. A formidable opponent for any lone cowboy. You carry your rifle not just for human threats, but for the untamed predators that share the range. The unforgiving landscape. The terrain itself can be a subtle killer. Hidden ravines, sudden drops, rocky outcrops, or treacherous quicksand in riverbeds. These can all lead to serious accidents. You learn to read the landscape, to understand the subtle cues that indicate dangerous ground. A cowboy's intimate knowledge of the land, gained through countless miles of riding, is as vital as his ability to handle a horse or a gun. The scorching summer heat isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Heat stroke and severe dehydration are constant threats, especially during long water-scarce stretches of the drive. Your body, already pushed to its limits by physical exertion, struggles to regulate its temperature. You learn to ration your water, to avoid unnecessary movement during the hottest parts of the day, and to recognize the early signs of heat exhaustion in yourself and your comrades. Conversely, the sudden onset of a winter blizzard could be equally, if not more, deadly. Rapid drops in temperature, blinding snow, and fierce winds could disorient the herd and your crew, leading to frostbite, hypothermia, and ultimately, death from exposure. You've heard the grim tales of entire herds and the cowboys tending them, simply vanishing in a sudden whiteout, consumed by the unforgiving cold as the sun sets, casting long, stark shadows across the vast, silent prairie. You settle into your night watch. The air is still, but you remain vigilant, your senses heightened, listening for the first sign of trouble. The cattle are bedding down. They're lowing a comforting sound, but you know that peace is always fragile in this wild land. You've survived another day, not just against rustlers or bandits, but against the raw, unbridled fury of nature itself. And as the stars begin to emerge in the inky blackness, you say a silent prayer for a peaceful night, knowing that tomorrow, the perils of the prairie will once again demand your vigilance and resilience. You've endured the sun-scorched days, the dust-choked nights, and the constant threat of nature's fury. You've faced down stampedes and survived the chilling solitude of the vast prairie. But as a cowboy in the American Wild West, the hardest truths often came not from the elements, but from the brutal realities of economics. Tonight, we uncover payday's fleeting promise, understanding the meager wages and the harsh economic realities that kept most cowboys struggling. Far from the romanticized image of the wealthy rancher, you ride into a dusty railhead town in Kansas, like Dodge City or Abilene. The end of a long, arduous trail drive. The air, usually thick with the scent of cattle and horse sweat, now carries the tantalizing smells of cooked food, cheap whiskey, and sawdust from the newly built saloons. The cattle are counted, sold, and loaded onto trains heading east. For the outfit, it's a triumph, a successful venture that brings substantial profit to the ranch owner. For you, the cowboy, it's payday, the moment you've ridden for months to reach. You might imagine a hefty stack of dollars, enough to buy a small piece of land, or set yourself up in a quiet town. But the reality is often a stark disappointment. Your wages, typically around $25 to $40 a month, were barely enough to cover your basic necessities, let alone build a fortune. And that was if you were paid consistently. Sometimes wages were delayed, or deductions were made for lost equipment, spoiled food, or minor infractions on the trail. You'd line up, your hat in your hand, listening as the trail boss or the ranch owner tallied your meager earnings. The romantic image of the well-heeled cowboy with pockets full of gold is largely a myth. Most were living hand-to-mouth, their earnings quickly consumed by immediate needs. It's a common historical fact that cowboy wages were relatively low, reflecting the strenuous, dangerous, and often temporary nature of the work. Deductions and debt. An interesting, less commonly known detail about cowboy pay involved the grub stake system. Often, a cowboy would be advanced money or supplies before a drive. For things like new boots, a hat, or tobacco, this grub stake would then be deducted from his wages at the end of the drive. While it provided essential items up front, it also meant that many cowboys arrived at the railhead already in debt to the outfit, further reducing their already meager take-home pay. Imagine having your entire paycheck eaten up by the cost of your work uniform and mandatory snacks. It makes your current car payment look like a bargain. The academic debate often examines the economic structure of the cattle industry and the social class of cowboys. Historians argue that cowboys were largely a transient, working-class labor force with limited opportunities for upward mobility. They were essential to the industry, but their labor was cheap and easily replaceable. This economic reality often contrasts sharply with the independent, self-made image portrayed in popular culture. For you, the cowboy, it means that despite all your hard work and risk, true financial independence feels like a distant, often unreachable dream. The lure of the railhead town, with its saloons, gambling halls, and brothels, was powerful after months of enforced sobriety and isolation on the trail. Your meager wages, often paid in cash, would quickly burn a hole in your pocket. A few drinks, a game of poker, a night with a sporting woman, these fleeting pleasures provided a temporary escape from the grind. But they also swiftly depleted your hard-earned cash. Many cowboys would blow their entire paycheck in a matter of days, leaving them broke and needing to sign on for another dangerous drive. Perpetuating the cycle of poverty and labor, cycles of poverty and peril, the economic reality meant that most cowboys remained rootless, owning little more than their horse-like saddle, and the clothes on their back. Owning land, starting a family, or building a permanent home was a dream for the fortunate few, Or for those who abandon the cowboy life for more stable, if less adventurous, work. The transient nature of the work, moving from one drive to the next, meant a lack of permanent community and a constant struggle to establish a secure future. You were always just passing through, never truly settling down. The danger of being robbed or swindled in these wild frontier towns was also significant. Cowboys, with their cash earnings, were easy targets for con artists, card sharps, and outright thieves. A single night of bad luck at the poker table, or an encounter with a skilled pickpocket, could leave you completely destitute, forcing you to take any work available, no matter how undesirable, just to eat. The law, as we've discussed, was often flimsy, offering little recourse for the cheated or the robbed, even if you managed to save a little. The opportunities for investment were few. Without education or capital, breaking out of the cycle of cowboy labor was incredibly difficult. Most cowboys were tied to the ranching industry, their skills specialized for a nomadic, hardscrabble life. The idea of transitioning into a respectable town business or acquiring land often felt like an insurmountable barrier. You might try to send a portion of your wages home to family, if you had any. But even that was often a difficult and risky endeavor. With no reliable banking system on the frontier, money could be lost, stolen, or simply never arrive. The connection to your past, to any semblance of a rooted life, often frayed and broke under the strains of distance and poverty, as the sun rises on the railhead town, casting long shadows of empty whiskey bottles and discarded playing cards. You wake up, perhaps on a cot in a cheap lodging house, or simply slumped against a saloon wall. Your head aches, your pockets are light, and the brief illusion of freedom and prosperity has vanished. Another payday gone, another cycle begun. You dust off your hat, pull on your stiff boots, and look for the next outfit hiring for a drive. The open range calls again, promising more dust, more discomfort, and another fleeting payday that will likely offer little true escape from the brutal realities of a cowboy's life. After weeks, or even months, of endless miles on the open range, where your only companions were cattle, horses, and a handful of gruff men, the sight of a frontier settlement, however small or rough, was a powerful beacon. You've just received your meager wages, and now, as a cowboy stepping into a place like Tombstone, Arizona, or Deadwood, South Dakota, you're entering a world of fleeting pleasures and ever-present dangers. Tonight, we glimpse the tantalizing allure and frequent troubles of towns of temptation and trouble. You ride into town, a dusty silhouette against the setting sun. The rhythmic creak of your saddle a familiar sound. The air, usually thick with the scent of sagebrush and cattle, now carries a cacophony of new aromas. Stale whiskey, cheap perfume, cooking grease, and the faint, unsettling whiff of unwashed bodies and horse manure. The sounds are equally overwhelming after the quiet of the range, raucous laughter spilling from saloons, the discordant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the distant plinking of a piano, and the occasional chilling crack of a gunshot. This isn't a quaint, picturesque town. It's a raw, booming outpost, a magnet for dreams and despair, and often, a place where trouble finds you before you can even find a bath. Imagine stepping off a spaceship onto a new planet, except the planet smells vaguely of stale beer and everyone is carrying a gun. The allure of the saloon. Your first stop, inevitably, is the saloon. After months of enforced sobriety, the promise of a cold beer or a shot of whiskey is almost irresistible. The swinging doors creak open, revealing a haze of tobacco smoke, the clatter of poker chips, and the low hum of conversation. You belly up to the bar, savoring the feeling of a glass in your hand, the burn of the alcohol, a welcome sensation. But the saloon is more than just a place to drink. It's the social hub, the unofficial town hall, the place where news is exchanged, deals are struck, and reputations are made or broken. It's a common historical fact that saloons were central to social life in the Old West, serving as gathering places for everything from business to entertainment. But temptation here runs deep. The gambling tables beckon, offering the tantalizing, yet often illusory, promise of quick riches. A game of poker or faro can quickly deplete your meager wages, leaving you broke and desperate. Card sharps and con artists, sharp-eyed and smooth-tongued, prey on weary, naive cowboys. They're sleight of hand far more dangerous than any gunfight. You learn quickly that trust is a luxury you can rarely afford, and that a friendly smile can hide a dishonest heart. It's like playing high-stakes poker where everyone else is a professional, and you're just happy to have chips. Then there are the sporting women, the prostitutes who frequent the saloons and brothels. After months of male-only company, their presence is a powerful allure. A night with them offers fleeting companionship, a semblance of intimacy, and a brief escape from the grinding loneliness of the trail. But this, too, comes at a cost, both financial and often, in the long run, emotional or even physical, as diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea were rampant and untreated. You might find yourself drawn to their fleeting warmth, only to feel a deeper emptiness when the morning light breaks. Unofficial justice and violent encounters. The lack of formal law enforcement in many frontier towns means that disputes often escalate quickly. A drunken argument, a perceived insult, or a dispute over a card game can explode into a fistfight. Or worse, a gunfight. Everyone is armed, and tempers are short. You learn to keep your wits about you to avoid trouble. But sometimes, trouble finds you. You might witness a shooting firsthand, the sudden, deafening report of a pistol echoing through the dusty street, leaving a body crumpled in the dirt and no one willing to talk to the overworked, underpaid marshal. The academic debate often explores the concept of self-help justice in frontier towns. Historians argue that while formal law was weak, communities often developed their own informal mechanisms for maintaining order, sometimes through vigilante actions or the reputation of certain individuals. This meant that reputation, and the perceived willingness to defend it with violence, was a crucial form of social currency. For you, the cowboy, it means that your personal safety depends heavily on your demeanor, your quick reflexes, and your ability to project an aura of quiet competence. Beyond the saloon, other businesses cater to the cowboy's needs and desires. The general store offers a chance to buy new clothes, tobacco, or a rare treat. The barbershop provides a moment of simple luxury, a hot shave, a haircut, and perhaps a moment of conversation that isn't about cattle. The livery stable is where you ensure your horse is cared for, a reminder that your most valuable asset still needs tending, even in town. Fleeting pleasures. Lasting consequences. The brief respite in town is often a whirlwind of intense experiences, designed to extract as much of your meager earnings as possible before you're broke and ready to sign on for another drive. The illusion of freedom and leisure quickly fades, replaced by the grim reality of dwindling funds and the need to find your next job. You see other cowboys, men you might have ridden with, losing their pay in a single night, their faces etched with despair as they realize they're back where they started, facing another endless stretch of the trail. The disease that runs rampant in these towns is another hidden danger. Poor sanitation, crowded conditions, and the transient nature of the population make them breeding grounds for illnesses. A night of revelry could lead to a lingering fever, a painful ailment, or worse, a venereal disease that would follow you back to the solitude of the range. Far from any hope of medical treatment. You learn to be cautious, but after months of isolation, the desire for human contact often overrides prudence. As the morning sun begins to pierce the dusty streets, illuminating the discarded bottles and the lingering haze of smoke, you wake up. Your head might be pounding, your pockets lighter, and a dull ache of regret might settle in your stomach. The fleeting pleasures of the town have vanished, replaced by the stark reality of your situation. You gather your gear, find your horse, and prepare to ride out again, leaving the temptations and troubles of the settlement behind. The open range awaits, promising more dust, more discomfort, but perhaps a simpler, less dangerous kind of hardship. The vast, sweeping landscapes of the American West have long captured the human imagination, creating a powerful, almost mythical figure, the cowboy, But as you, the working cowboy, ride through the fading light of this era, you understand that the enduring myth is a fragile veil, often obscuring a far harsher, more complex truth. Tonight, we gently close our journey by reflecting on the legends versus lived reality, understanding how the romanticized image of the cowboy stands in stark contrast to the grueling, forgotten truth of their daily struggle, and how those echoes still resonate today. You are an old cowboy now, perhaps sitting on a creaky porch in a quiet, dusty town that has long since outgrown its frontier roots. Or maybe still riding a quieter range, tending a smaller herd. The sun has baked countless lines onto your face, and your hands, gnarled from years of rope and saddle, tell a silent story of endless labor. You've seen the dime novels and heard the campfire songs that painted a heroic, often inaccurate, picture of your life. The lone rider myth, the fastest gun in the West legend, these are a world away from the endless dust, the aching solitude, and the constant threat of pneumonia that defined your reality. You understand that the public craved a hero, a symbol of rugged individualism, and the cowboy, in their minds, fit the bill perfectly. It's a common historical fact that the romanticized image of the cowboy, fueled by popular dime novels and Wild West shows, began to take shape even during the actual era of the cattle drives, often far removed from the daily reality. The unsung toil. The romantic image often glossed over the relentless physical toll of the work. You recall the perpetually sore backside from days in the saddle, the burning lungs from inhaling dust, the cracked hands, and the constant gnawing of hunger and thirst. There was no glory in patching a fence in scorching heat, or spending a freezing night pulling a bogged-down steer from a creek. The reality was less about dramatic gunfights and more about monotonous, back-breaking labor, day in and day out, with little comfort or recognition. Imagine having your entire working life condensed into a 2-hour movie that mostly features you looking cool, when the reality was 16-hour shifts in horse poop and dust. An interesting, less commonly known detail about the disparity between myth and reality involved the diversity of cowboys. The popular image almost exclusively features white men. However, a significant portion, perhaps as many as 1 in 4, were African American. Many of them former slaves who found a degree of freedom and opportunity on the open range that was denied to them elsewhere. Mexican vaqueros, with their rich tradition of horsemanship, also played a crucial role. Their stories, their contributions, and their struggles are often omitted from the romanticized narrative, highlighting the selective nature of the legend. It's like only showing the lead singer of a band, when the drummer and bassist are doing all the heavy lifting and making the whole thing sound good. The academic debate often explores the creation of the cowboy myth and its function in American culture. Historians argue that this idealized image served to symbolize American values like self-reliance, independence, and pioneering spirit, particularly during periods of rapid industrialization and urbanization, when such values felt increasingly distant. The myth provided a powerful, unifying narrative, even if it distorted the actual lives of the men it depicted. For you, the cowboy, it means that your lived experience was far more complex and often more miserable than the stories told about you. Peril, poverty, and the fleeting town. You remember the constant peril, not just the cinematic gunfights, but the more mundane, yet deadly, threats of sudden stampede, a venomous snakebite, a bone-chilling blizzard, or the silent, agonizing onset of typhoid fever from contaminated water. These were the true dangers, far more common and terrifying than any showdown at high noon. Your survival often depended more on vigilance and sheer luck than on heroic acts of daring. The economic hardship was also a brutal reality often excluded from the legend. You recall the meager wages, quickly spent in dusty railhead towns, leaving you broke and facing another long, dangerous drive. The dream of owning your own ranch, of settling down, remained just that, a dream for most. Many cowboys remained transient laborers, owning little more than their saddle and their horse. Their lives a perpetual cycle of hard work and fleeting reward. There was little social mobility for the average cowboy. You worked until your body gave out, or until you found some other, equally hard, way to make a living. The towns, often depicted as centers of excitement and adventure, were just as often places of temptation and trouble. You remember the cheap whiskey, the rigged poker games, and the dangerous diseases that could leave you sick and stranded? The fleeting pleasures offered a brief escape from the monotony, but often led to a deeper emptiness and the swift depletion of your hard-earned wages. The freedom you found there was often just the freedom to make poor choices, enduring echoes. Yet, despite the harsh reality, there's a strange pride in having lived that life, in having endured. You were part of something vast and monumental, helping to shape a nation, moving millions of head of cattle across an untamed continent. Your skills, your resilience, and your quiet determination were real, even if the stories told about you were not. The echoes of the cowboy era still resonate in modern America. In our literature, our music, our films, and even our fashion. The cowboy endures as a powerful symbol. The vast open spaces still call to us, hinting at a freedom that, for the working cowboy, was often a mirage. And as you sit, feeling the gentle breeze of a fading day, you understand that while the myth may shine brighter, the true history, the story of the men who lived and struggled in the dust and the sun, is far more compelling. A quiet testament to the human spirit's ability to endure.